Act.
It sends the message we no longer support Nicaragua's government and its president, Daniel Ortega. And David Ona joined us now with the frightening reason why.
Carlene and Jory, the NICA Act is an emphatic statement from the U.S. accusing Nicaraguan officials of corruption and, more importantly, human rights violations. In this Eyewitness News exclusive, why we in Southern California should care. And we must warn you, there are portions of this story you may find disturbing.
No nos dejes morir en paz. Tus estudiantes cada vez somos menos.
That is the face of fear. With Nicaraguan troops moving in, protesters are saying goodbye to their families.
Mamá, perdóname. Salí a defender mi patria. Te amo, ¿oíste?
Fearful they will never be seen again.
They start shooting in the march, and they're like in the middle of the city, and everybody, and then they start shooting everywhere, and everybody was running.
Vámonos, vámonos. Vámonos, vámonos, vámonos. Para abajo, para abajo.
LA's Rosario Pereira was there. It started when Nicaragua's government, led by President Daniel Ortega, announced deep cuts in Social Security payouts. The masses protested. Ortega's troops answered with violence. You could hear bullets whizzing by.
Escuchen detonaciones, señores. La situación se pone bastante difícil. Escuchen, escuchen.
Pereira ran for her life, hiding in a basement, still hearing the carnage on the streets above.
Vamos para retirarnos ante el ataque de la policía.
They were just getting killed. I can hear that. I can hear them running, passing by the ambulance. I can hear them screaming, "We need help."
That's the day that they started shooting people left and right.
LA's Manuel Lopez is trying to alert the world of what's happening in Nicaragua. He's been organizing protests, talking to politicians, exposing the violence. He tells me about a boy shot while handing out water.
His name was Alvaro Contrado. They took him to the hospital, but they had orders from the president not to help anyone, that is injured. So he died right at the door.
He says President Ortega is hiding the brutality by shutting down news outlets. So journalists have turned to social media with deadly results. Angel Gojana was reporting on Facebook Live when this happened. Shot in the head by an assassin.
What we saw in Nicaragua was a total shutdown of free and fair press.
3 young American journalists found themselves right in the middle of it. They show me their gripping, heart-wrenching images, emphatic proof the bloodshed is real. Hundreds are dead, thousands missing, but their cameras bring hope. They met traumatized mothers outside a prison, searching for their sons who were kidnapped for criticizing the government.
All these mothers started standing up, and they walked over with the photos, and they were, I think, yelling like "Justicia, Justicia," which is "We want justice for our kids," and it was very upsetting.
I remember sitting in the hotel room and the 3 of us talking and being like, wow, we really got to make sure we tell this right.
Number one priority is I need to make sure that others like me at home can be able to see this. These people feel like they're not being heard at all.
Unintentionally, they became an overnight sensation. Rock star journalists giving people a voice.
It seemed all fun because we were getting all these cheers and everything, but then I was like, there's a lot of people taking photos of us. Later in the day, our concierge at the hotel tells us that we've gone viral.
Even immigration officers at the airport had photos of the young man. The government was watching. The human tragedy is only part of the reason we should care. The other part is taking place right now on our border. The thousands from Central America hoping for asylum. Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, desperate to save themselves and live in a free world. And more are coming.
There's no question that there's going to be an influx of people coming to the border. Either they're going to fight to the end, or they're going to have to leave because they have no option.
Are you a citizen?
Yeah.
So you can come to America and escape it, but most cannot.
Most of them cannot. And it's so frustrating that I feel like I don't know, like a coward,
Why do you feel like a coward?
leaving my people like that. Because I saw the whole thing, and I got the chance to leave, and I just left.
Despite all the evidence and the harsh criticism from the U.S., President Ortega is denying the crackdown, and at the same time he continues to stifle the free press, accused of arresting journalists and allowing only a couple of stations to remain on the air, both owned by his children. As for the hundreds of thousands who have criticized Ortega, they say if they don't find a way out, they fear that they will not survive. It's one of those stories that is a long way away, but it certainly affects us here in Southern California.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to see her guilt, too, that she's allowed to be here.
Yeah, she struggles.
Yeah, and these hotspots are all around the world.
All
and
over
this
the
is
world.
one of them. It's tough to see. Great reporting.